Hello everyone, how are you? Okay, today I'm here with our first chapter of the book Flamingo, The Last Lesson. The Last Lesson, it is written by Alphonse Daudet. And in this chapter, the author has narrates the event about the 1870s when France was captured by the Prussian forces. And furthermore, the Lorraine and Alsace district of the France has been captured by the Germany, the Prussians. Now, there came an order from Berlin that no French should be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine, and only the German language will be introduced. Let us see and the chapter. Here is the summary of the lesson, the last lesson. France, the narrator of the story, was running late for school one day and was worried about getting a dressing down from his teacher, M. Hamel. He had not learned the rules of French participles like M. Hamel had asked them to do. As Franz hurried to the school, he noticed a crowd in front of the village's bulletin board. Since he was already late for the school, Franz did not stop to read the news. When he reached the school, Franz couldn't hear the usual bustling sounds heard at the beginning of a school day. The stillness worried Franz even more as he had hoped to slip in unnoticed in the commotion. Franz entered the classroom embarrassed and afraid, but was surprised when M. Hamel kindly asked him to take his seat. It was only after he sat down that Franz noticed that M. Hamel was dressed in clothes that he wore only on important days like inspection or prize days. There was a strange solemnness in the air. What surprised Franz even more was the sight of the villagers occupying the back benches that would otherwise be empty. As Franz wondered what was happening, Hamel informed them in a grave tone that this would be their last lesson. Since Germany took over Alsace and Lorraine after the war, it had been ordered that only German would be taught in the schools. Franz was shocked by the announcement that realized why the atmosphere was so serious that day near the bulletin board. He was filled with the regret and wished he had paid more attention to his studies instead of fooling around here and there. His books no longer felt like a nuisance, and he realized he would miss the cranky old Hamel, his teacher. Then he heard his name being called out for recitation. Completely unprepared, Franz made several errors as soon as he began and stood there feeling terribly ashamed of himself. Again, instead of scolding Franz, M. Hamel spoke about the general tendency in the village to put off learning. The Prussians could now mock them for not knowing to speak and write their own language. M. Hamel went on to say how it was not just Franz's fault. And Franz's parents were guilty too, for they preferred that he would work on a farm or at a mill than attend the school. M. Hamel confessed that he himself had acted irresponsibly when he gave students holiday so that he could go for fishing. M. Hamel then spoke about how French was the most clear and logical language and how they must guard their own language. By doing so, they would have retained at least one part of their freedom. While they continued with the lessons for the day, French found himself paying attention to every word that M. Hamel have uttered. M. Hamel too taught with a zeal like never before he had taught. At one point, Franz looked up from his work and saw M. Hamel gazing at everything as if he was trying to take a mental photograph of everything he could. It was a deeply emotional moment for M. Hamel to leave behind 40 years of his hard work. Even the villagers seemed to be overcome with their emotions. Finally, when the lesson ended, M. Hamel stood up to speak, but words were stuck in his throat. He only managed to write Vive la France on the blackboard and dismissed the class with a wave of his hand. That's all for today. Thank you.